Hello all, and welcome to Football League Storytime, a series I'm trying to kickstart into life in a desperate attempt to get myself making videos again. The idea behind Football League Storytime being, we take a look at the unique, bizarre and often untold stories from the English Football League and possibly a bit beyond. And so to kick us off, today's video regards Carl Fletcher. Carl Fletcher, or Carl Neil Fletcher as he's known to his parents, was born on the 7th of April 1980 in the town of Camberley, Surrey. A tough tackling midfielder who could also play in defence, he came through the ranks at AFC Bournemouth, making his debut for the Cherries in February of 1998, aged just 17. It took Fletcher a couple years to establish himself at Bournemouth, finally becoming what you'd call a regular in the 99 to 2000 season. Fletcher went on to make 218 appearances in total for Bournemouth, including one at the Millennium, when he captained the side in the 2003 Division 3, that's League 1 nowadays, playoff final. He even scored, twice, and his side won 5-2 against Lincoln City.
Oh, it's there, and it's Carl Fletcher again!
Now, in 2004, £275,000 could have bought you 2,750,000 Freddos, or about 1/150th of the funding for the film Shark Tale. Or, if you're West Ham United, one Carl Fletcher. He played 53 times for the Hammers, or the Irons if you so please, winning promotion from the Championship and going on to play in the Premier League. He scored a final day goal in 2006, which, along with some dodgy lasagna, stopped London rivals Tottenham Hotspur from qualifying for the Champions League for the next season. The Didier Drogba of his day. He then made an appearance at the Millennium again, this time in an FA Cup final, in which West Ham lost out to Liverpool and Steven Gerrard, the king of winning games 3-3. Fletcher then switched East London for South when he joined Crystal Palace for £400,000, enough to build 1/700th of the Crystal Palace, but struggled to impress under Neil Warnock and had a flurry of injury problems. In 2008 he scored his first goal for Wales, whom he was eligible for through a relation of some sort, I guess. He scored the first in a 3-0 friendly win over the mighty force of Norway. A year later, his international career would come to an end, with 36 caps and just that one goal. In 2009, he got his dream move back to the south coast, to AFC Plymouth Argyle. Initially on emergency loan, Fletcher signed a permanent deal with the Pilgrims later that summer, just in time for the club to go absolutely arse over elbow. 2 relegations, administration, months without pay, and a revolving door of players followed. Like the players, managers came and went too. Paul Sturrock, Paul Mariner and Peter Reid all saw the sack, but still Fletcher remained. In September 2010, Fletcher, now Argyle's captain, reportedly asked for special dispensation to avoid doing jury duty at the Plymouth Crown Court by claiming he was too well known in the local area. He immediately disproved his own fame by claiming he had to play in the JPT Trophy game away to Cheltenham Town. Come September in the 2011-12 season, Argyle were bottom of League 2, 11 games without a win. The previously mentioned Peter Reid, who had famously sold off his FA Cup runners-up medal to help pay the club's heating bill, had been sacked, and captain Carl Fletcher was placed in charge, with club stalwart Roman Lario as his assistant. Against the odds, they won their first game in charge, a 2-0 result at home to Macclesfield Town. Fletcher played his last games for Argyle in 2 FA Cup first-round clashes with non-league part-timers Stourbridge, which eventually resulted in an embarrassing 2-0 loss in the replay. However, new ownership steadied the ship and Fletcher led the seemingly doomed Argyle to go undefeated in the league in the months of November and February. In fact, from January until the end of the season, Argyle lost just 7 of their 25 games and survived relegation by 2 points. By the summer of 2012, Fletcher, aged just 32, was the second youngest manager in the entire Football League. His successors, along with those of Eddie Howe at Bournemouth and less so Burnley, Carl Robinson at MK Dons and Jim Bentley at Morecambe, to name a few, saw a change of ethos across the Football League. Gone were the days of clubs appointing more senior managers, and in came the likes of Gareth Ainsworth, Michael Flynn, Mikel Arteta to an extent. Clubs suddenly realised that sometimes the best candidates for coaches and managers were already at their clubs. Okay, maybe I'm overselling the influence that Fletcher had directly, but still, surely his first summer as a manager would prove his worth, a chance to build a squad and steady a ship. Unfortunately, his most notable signing of the summer was a 32-year-old Welsh fireman. Unsurprisingly then, the 2012-13 season started off disappointingly, and quickly got worse. After 6 defeats in 7, doubts started to form around Fletcher's tenureship. However, these doubts were slightly relieved after 1 win and 3 draws from the next 4 games going into Christmas. With the squad obviously needing improvements, the club started looking for a director of football to help the inexperienced Fletcher. The man they targeted was John Ward, 61 years of age, who had been recently dismissed by Colchester United. However, Ward was instead snapped up by Bristol Rovers to be their manager. On New Year's Day of 2013, Ward's Bristol Rovers beat Fletcher's Argyle 2-1 and Fletcher was sacked. Bravely, he faced the media immediately afterwards and was quite visibly upset.
No, it's tough when you speak to the players, you know. It's, they've put a lot in and we've been through a lot together. So,
Yeah. Can we go later?
Yeah.
Can we go later?
Just give us a second.
Aged just 32 still, Fletcher tried to restart his playing career, joining conference side Barnet in October. He played 6 games, mostly at centre-half, and was sent off once, before being released in January 2014. Later that year, Fletcher joined his good friend and former teammate Eddie Howe at Bournemouth, working with the club's youth players, eventually working his way up to being the under-23s manager and loan manager? That must be a modern thing. And now it's time to get on to why I'm sure most, perhaps some of you, perhaps just you, have clicked on this video anyway. I think it wouldn't be unfair to say that Fletcher's job at Bournemouth was relatively secure. So it came as a shock when, in October 2019, he left Bournemouth to become manager of League Two side Leyton Orient, signing a deal until the summer of 2021. His first proper management job, proper in inverted commas, in over 6 years. Orient had been managed by Ross Embleton on a caretaker basis following the untimely death of Justin Edinburgh earlier that summer, and sought out Fletcher after a lengthy interview process to make sure they got the right man to take the club forward. Embleton's last game in charge was a 4-0 win over Grimsby Town. Fletcher's first game in charge, just 3 days later, was a 4-0 defeat to Plymouth Argyle. Not a great start. His next game was against Carlisle United, who had lost 4 league games on the bounce. They drew 1-1. Orient then travelled to the managerless Morecambe and uninspiringly lost 1-0, dominating the ball but creating very little in the way of actual chances. Next up, the Leasing Checkatrade Paint Trophy, in which Orient drew with Brighton's under-23s 1-1 before winning an extra group stage point on penalties. Woo! Things were looking up. Or not. Fletcher's next game in charge was in the FA Cup, at home to Maldon and Tiptree, and reminiscent to the Stourbridge game all those years earlier, they lost 2-1. Maldon and Tiptree playing the Isthmian North Division, the 8th tier of English football. By now, Orient fans had had enough of Fletcher and his certain repetitive mannerisms when it came to talking to the press.
Yeah, massively. Yeah. Games, you know, we know they're always we know, and like I said, there's a lot to work on. Like I said, that you know.
He was sacked on the 14th of November, just 29 days after being appointed, having drawn 2 and lost 3 of his 5 games in charge. Where next for Fletcher? Probably Bournemouth's youth academy again, or possibly a delve into management in the non-leagues. I'm not sure any Football League side would logically consider giving him a job now, at least not for another 6 years anyway. Thanks for watching and or listening to the first episode of Football League Storytime. If you enjoyed, then do all the usual gubbins. You know how YouTube works. This is my first attempt at a long-form, scripted, storytelling-ish type video, so apologies if the pacing was a bit off at times, and if the jokes just outright weren't funny. I'll try a bit harder next time. I've got a rough idea on who I want the next episode to be about, but it doesn't just have to be specific individuals, it could be teams, it could just be unique and quirky stories. So thanks again for watching, take care, and goodbye.